Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream from Scalar Learning, and we are continuing Khan Academy SAT problems. And today we are working on, sorry, I'm just testing the audio. We are working on, yep, it's working. Today we are working on quadratic equations, which is one of my favorite things to solve. I don't know why, but I just find them really fun to solve. So without further ado, let's do it. And if you guys find these videos helpful and you are preparing for the SAT, you want to get all the most up-to-date information on math, SAT math, fun music math, music videos, make sure to subscribe below and turn on all notifications so you can get the latest and greatest from Scalar Learning. All right. Without further ado, solving quadratic equations. Let's do it. And as always, I'm solving these for the first time, so that's always part of the fun. I'm figuring it out with you. In the equation above, b is a constant. If negative 8/3 and 13/3 are solutions to the equation, then what is the value of b? Now, remember, solutions are basically where we have our x-intercepts. And what this is saying is we've got, usually the way we figure out our solutions is we figure out when this whole quantity equals 0. That means since these two quantities right here are multiplying each other, that means if either one of these goes to 0, the entire quantity is 0 and this equation is true. So a solution would be anything that satisfies this value. So t clearly here, what would make this value go to 0 is negative 8/3. Because negative 8/3 was positive 8/3, that's 0. So that accounts for the negative 8/3. But it says also that a solution here is 13/3. This 13/3 must be relevant to this binomial. So that means that if t is 13/3 as a solution, what must b have to be in order to combine with 13/3 to equal 0? Well, let's solve. We're going to subtract both sides by 13/3. And this goes away, and we just get b equals negative 13/3, which is this guy. That should be correct. Yes. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. What is the sum of the solutions to the equation above? So this adds an extra curveball. We're probably going to get two solutions, and we got to then add them together. So let's take it step by step. This is a little trickier than the last one. V plus 1/5 squared minus 9 equals 0. Now, this is interesting because normally we'd be setting it equal to 0 and we'd be factoring. I'm seeing another way to do this. I suppose you could still do it that way, but I'm seeing another way. Instead, I'm going to isolate this squared binomial. V plus 1/5 squared. Like I said, you do it the way that you want to do it. You can use the quadratic. You could use all sorts of ways to solve this. This just occurred to me, and it's the fastest because I saw that I have something squared that I need to square root. And I saw if I move this over here, I'm going to get a nice perfect square. 9 is a perfect square by itself because now I can undo this square by taking the square root. They're inverse operations. So that cancels this side out. Then we got v plus 1/5 equals, now you got to be careful here because it's not just 9. It's not just 3. It's plus or minus 3. Because the square root of 9 is both 3 and negative 3. And then I'm going to subtract 1/5 from both sides. Subtract 1/5 from both sides. And v equals plus or minus 3 minus 1/5. So what are my two solutions? My two solutions are when v is positive 3 minus 1/5, which is 2 and 4/5. It's also negative 3 minus 1/5, which is negative 3 and 1/5. And now they said they want us to add these two quantities together, right? The sum. So 2 and 4/5, that would be negative 2/5. Okay, and I'll show you how. If you want to, we could turn these into improper fractions. So that would be negative 16 over 5, right? 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16, plus 14 over 5. Now we got a negative and a positive. We just do like subtraction. And because the negative quantity has a greater absolute value, it's negative 2/5. So B should be our answer if I did that correctly. All right, cool. Cool. Number 3. X minus A squared minus 3 equals 0. Let's solve it the same way. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And actually, this isn't going to give us a perfect square root, but that's okay. It's still going to work. X minus a squared equals 3. Oh, I didn't even read this. In the equation above, a is a constant. If the equation has the solutions x equals 4 plus or minus square root 3, what is the value of a? Well, actually, this will work. So what we're going to worry about a later. All right. And first, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the solution relative to a. A lot of times in these problems, if you just follow basic protocol, if you're just like, I know I need to solve or get the solution for x, and you're not exactly sure how it's going to all connect, you'll start to see the light at the end of the tunnel many times once you just start processing and working through things. So we're going to go ahead and square root both sides just like we did last time. We got x minus a, right? These two guys negate each other, equals plus or minus, it's always that plus or minus 3. And then I'm going to keep isolating by adding a, and x equals a plus or minus square root 3. Now, look at our solution in terms of a, and look at what the solution is here. Clearly, it's very obvious once you get to this point, a must equal 4, because here's a and here's 4, and everything else is the same. So that's what I'm saying. You just go with the normal operations and have faith in that process, and things will usually present themselves afterwards. Now we've got this x plus 1 times c plus x squared equals 0. It says in the equation above, c is a constant. The equation has solutions at this and this. What is the value of c? All right, this is a little more interesting. But I'm just going to have faith, and I'm just going to follow in my typical protocol. So let's see. I'm going to distribute the c here, and I'm going to distribute the c here. And I'm going to say now we have xc plus x squared equals 0. I'm going to reorganize this. X squared, let's see, x squared plus xc. Now I'm having another thought. I'm having another thought instead of perhaps plugging in negative 3 halves into this. Let me think about what that would have done. 9/4, 1/2 c plus 9/4 equals 0, and then solve for c. Okay, you know what? I'm now rethinking this, and there could be a better approach. Let me just play this out because I want to see if this would actually, how this would actually work, right? And then we'd have c, cx, and then I think what this would factor to, if I'm not mistaken, would be x, would be the square root of c, the square root of c. No, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work because this would be x squared c. Yeah, maybe this is not the right play. I mean, you could do quadratic at this point and sort of figure this out as it's too much work. It's too much work. Okay, so I'm gonna back up, and I'm gonna say instead, this is the idea that occurred to me after I was sort of processing everything. I was like, well, wait a minute. If I can just plug in negative 3 halves and know that this is when it's a solution, meaning this whole side, these two have to equal each other, I can figure out what c is. So anyways, if I plug in negative 3 halves for x plus 1 times c plus negative 3 halves squared. And to be honest, I should have done negative 3. Let's do negative 3 because we don't have to deal with a fraction. You should get the same value for c either way. Negative 3 plus negative 3 squared equals 0. And then this becomes negative 2 times c plus 9 equals 0. Subtract 9, negative 2c equals negative 9. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. c equals 9/2, which is probably an option down here. Yeah, c. But watch, I'm just going to show you out of an abundance of caution. Let's go ahead and plug in, negative 3 halves, because negative 3 halves should also work and give us the exact same thing. Negative 3 halves plus 1 times c plus negative 3 halves squared. This plus this is negative 1/2 c plus 9/4 equals 0. And we're going to subtract 9/4, We're going to get negative 1/2 c equals negative 9/4. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Negative 2, almost off the screen there, but that's okay. And this cancels out. We got c equals 2 times 9 is 18. So it's positive 18 over 4. Reduce both by 2, and it's also 9 over 2. So you see you get the same answer both ways, and that makes sense. So this should be correct. Yes. Finally, question number 5. 2x minus 3 squared minus b. 2x minus 3 squared minus b equals 0. In the equation above, b is a constant. If the equation has a solution, same thing. We did this before. Again, let's just follow the process relatively blindly, and we're going to isolate for x and get our solution. So I'm going to add b to both sides, add b to both sides. Goodbye. 2x minus 3 squared equals b. Then I'm going to divide by 2. Basic variable isolation goes away. X minus 3 squared. Whoops. Oh boy. Squared equals b over 2. Now let's square root both sides. Get rid of that square. We got x minus 3 equals plus or minus square root of b over 2. And then let's add 3 to both sides. Get rid of that last 3. X equals 3 plus or minus b over 2. And it says it's 3 plus or minus square root of 5. So that means this quantity here, b over 2, somehow it has to equal 5. How? Well, I don't know. Let's isolate b and figure it out. We'll multiply both sides by 2. These cancel out. And b equals 10. And that should work. Let's see if it does. Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys are having a great week. Once again, we got live streams every Wednesday doing SAT math from Khan Academy, so make sure to tune in and check us out. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe. That way you can always get a notification. Well, you got to turn your notifications on, but if you do that, you'll always be notified when we're doing a live stream, when new videos are coming out, because we got a lot of new content coming out all the time. The latest and greatest in math curriculum material and math music videos, fun stuff like that. My podcast will soon be all uploaded on YouTube as well. Got 147 episodes already and counting. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day and week. Take it easy.